talk about the Super Bowls. 42 was great. It was, but yeah.
Well, we don't need to waste time with that.
Yeah.
All right.
Welcome to Sports with the Boys, a special web show edition of Sports with the Boys.
Friday night.
Yeah. Along with Brad, I'm Anthony Alford.
Alford.
Yeah. So, let's start off right away with college football predictions. It's not really that many marquee games, but there are important games that has a lot of affecting as far as the national championship race.
And especially because with no playoff system in the football bowl subdivision, every regular season game counts.
That's right.
So
let's get rolling. We're gonna start off in the Big Ten. It's the game of the week, according to ESPN. Game day will be in Columbus. Penn State versus the number 9 BCS ranked Ohio State Buckeyes.
All right. I'm going to say Ohio State at home. And the reason I like Ohio State at home is they play better at home than they do on the road. But they seem to have gotten their sea legs under them.
Yeah.
They pounded Purdue at home. And on the road, they pounded Minnesota. Now, granted, those two teams are weaker this year. But still, when you put up 49 points on a team and then the next week go on the road and put up 52 points on a team, and only give up 10 points in those two games total, you really rebounded from that Wisconsin loss.
Yeah.
They've had a week to prepare. Joe Paterno is coming in. He just won his 400th win.
And he guaranteed he went out and he said, let's beat Ohio State. You know.
Well, I think it will be a close, competitive game, but this will be the third time Terrell Pryor's seen them, and Penn State does not have a quarterback that has played Ohio State. They have a true freshman and a sophomore that are the two people. I think he's starting the sophomore this week. Most important, Penn State's coming off that emotional win. Ohio State's coming off a restful week.
Yeah.
And if Penn State gets behind like they did against Northwestern, they won't be able to come back on that defense.
They're in trouble, and they got behind quick also against Alabama. So
right,
you see how that game turned out.
And Iowa, the same thing. They have struggled on the road. So let's say Ohio State at home.
Ohio State. I read a statistic. When Ohio State has a bye week in conference during their conference schedule
under Tressel, it's not too pretty.
They are 2-4 or 5. They're 2-5. Joe Pa and Penn State has nothing to lose. Nothing to lose at this point. But this is for the Big Ten race. And Penn State usually competes with Ohio State. With that being said, I think Terrell Pryor and the Buckeyes come through. They understand what this means. And they realize the Rose Bowl is at stake. If they don't win this game, they're not going.
Yeah, they're done.
They're not going. So I think
they have to win out to have a chance.
Yeah, I think Ohio State Buckeyes will take this one.
And I think one key to this whole thing is Jim Tressel in November is hard to beat.
That's right. That's right. And in the next coming weeks, though, we'll talk about the Ohio State-Michigan game and how Tressel has basically dominated that rivalry for the Buckeyes. So, got a couple more here. Georgia against number 2 Auburn.
All right.
Auburn is at home, by the way.
Auburn is at home. You know, Auburn has had a distraction this week with the Cam Newton scandal, so to speak. Yeah. Cecil Newton, his father, supposedly said that it would take $100,000 to $180,000.
And we'll talk more in depth about that on Monday.
Yeah, in order for him to go to Mississippi State. That being said, I think Auburn is a disciplined team. Gene Chizik was a coordinator there under Tuberville. And so he understands the SEC. He's seen Georgia before. Georgia is coming off an extremely emotional loss to Florida in recent weeks, and eventually they've got to be looking ahead to Georgia Tech, which is a big rival. And while this is a rivalry, Georgia's really got nothing to play for Auburn, except to upset Auburn, if they win, will be in the SEC championship game, regardless of what happens next week, because they hold a tiebreaker over LSU.
Yeah.
And they would be at worst 7-1.
Yeah.
So I think Auburn knows what's at stake. I think Chiswick really wants to get them there. He knows how to finish things out. He was there on that 04 team that went 13-0. I say Auburn at home in a close game, but Auburn at home wins this one.
I think this game has potential to be an upset. Do not be surprised if Georgia does beat Auburn. I'm just saying that right now.
It'll be close.
They're in the SEC, so anything can happen. With that being said, however, Auburn, Cam Newton, I think he'll perform at a high level. Again, the SEC divisional title is at stake in this game, and I think because of that, Auburn will come out to their home fans and perform. They'll be ready to play Auburn at home. So, I just want to remind you folks, last week's predictions.
We didn't agree like this.
Yeah. And you see what happened. He was 3-1, and I'm not even gonna mention my record.
All right, so we got 2 more games.
Yeah, we're gonna cut this short a little bit. Let's go to the Big 12 here.
Okay.
Kansas State and Missouri, 24 versus 17. Now that may not seem like much, but these two teams do have a big influence on
the Big 12 North.
The Big 12 North Division.
You know, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Even though Missouri's at home, I'm gonna call Kansas State. Kansas State absolutely throttled Texas recently. They were up 39-0 on a team that last year won the Big 12 and played for the national championship. Granted, they lost a lot of talent, but I think Kansas State is in a little bit of a rhythm. They're rolling along.
Yeah.
They are a powerful team. They're a force to be reckoned with. I think Missouri, now that they've lost a couple games, one that they really shouldn't have. I don't remember who it was. Was it Texas Tech?
It was Texas Tech, yeah.
Yeah. Now that they've lost a couple games, I really don't think that their head's in it. Kansas State also, in recent years, hasn't been that great. But they played for the Big 12 title in 03, so it's not like they don't know at all how to finish things off.
Yeah. A lot of seniors on that team.
Yeah, they've got good leadership, and that's why I think they actually will probably win this week at Missouri.
Yeah, I think coming in on the road, Missouri, they had their high point, and their high point was their victory over Oklahoma. But since then, I guess they had somewhat of a hangover, and they have fallen. I think this is the time where Missouri understands that they have to start upswinging their way back up. I think Missouri can pull out the victory. I know Kansas State has great, leadership. I understand that. But Missouri, I think, has the better team. They'll have the home crowd behind them. And I think that will be the reason why Missouri will win this game.
All right, we got a little dissent.
Yeah. One more game. Real quickly, South Carolina and Florida.
South Carolina at Florida. Again, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that Florida is going to lose at home to South Carolina.
I agree.
South Carolina, Florida. South Carolina in 06, the year Florida went out and throttled Ohio State to win a title.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to go down that road. But I do want to mention...
We could spend a whole hour on that history
I do want to
lesson
mention that it was a blocked kick.
Yes.
That saved Florida in the South Carolina game in the Swamp. South Carolina knows how to play Florida. South Carolina is a good team.
Mm-hmm.
They played Auburn well on the road. They dismantled Alabama to upset them at home. And they've had their fair share of, what moments? Did that really just happen?
Yeah.
Did they lose like that really to Kentucky?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I think South Carolina under Steve Spurrier has a good team this year. They're finally getting the right pieces together, and Florida is struggling in the post-Tim Tebow era. I do want to mention Florida probably knows, still with the leadership they have, probably knows how to finish a season, finish a drive for an SEC championship berth.
Yeah.
Better than South Carolina. However, South Carolina has more experienced quarterbacks. Florida has dropped a couple games at home. They lost to Mississippi State and LSU. LSU first, and then the next week they lost to Mississippi State. So honestly, I think South Carolina's going to go in there. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think they're going to pull it off.
In that game, there's one X factor that will either make or break, that will determine the game. And that's Lattimore, the running back for
Yes.
South Carolina. It'll be up to him for South Carolina to win the game. If he doesn't perform well, Florida's going to win. But I think Lattimore comes on the road, he shows up. There's a lot at stake in this game. South Carolina will get the win because of Lattimore. All right, folks. This is Sports with the Boys. One quick webcam segment.
Last thing I want to say, winner of that game goes to the SEC title game.
Yes.
Literally, the winner of that game will be 5-3 with all the tiebreakers.
Yeah.
Winner
And they
of the
will
game.
be facing more than likely Auburn. Yeah. So unless Auburn falls
It
on
might
the
be
losing-
interesting to see an Auburn or an LSU Florida matchup because that game was spectacular.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see South Carolina get their first berth under Spurrier.
All right, real quickly, the my power rankings. Of course, in the worst of the worst. Number one, returning, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number two will be the New York Giants.
They're
Giants.
on a roll.
New York Giants is rolling, and they can score. Number three is the Baltimore Ravens. However, I will say this: these rankings was made before
Prior to last night.
night's game. I would have switched Atlanta and Baltimore, and we'll talk more about that on Monday's show. Number four is the New England Patriots, and number five is the Atlanta Falcons. Now, hold up for a second. Watch when this fan comes back. Watch this Rich box just swing. Watch it. Look at that. Look at
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Now, the worst of the worst, you could say Buffalo.
At
You
least
could
Buffalo
say-
competes.
You could say Carolina. But, again, the Dallas Cowboys. You have Dallas Cowboys. Finally, you got Ray Phillips out of your misery. Got him out. You quit on him. He's gone. Now what excuse do you have? What excuse do you have?
I taste a rant coming on Monday, maybe.
A little bit. I'm feeding a little bit. What excuse does it have? I understand if you don't make the Super Bowl. I understand that. But this team last year, you win a playoff game, and what do you do from there on? You have probably the worst record since the 1989 season. That's unacceptable.
The fans
Even-
deserve more.
The fans deserve more. Jerry Jones brought you everything, and he probably brought something for your grandkids that's probably not even born yet. So he brought everything. You have the talent everywhere except for a quarterback right now, but there was problems when Romo was playing, and you cannot put it together. And I talked about this on the radio show real quickly. Roy Williams was saying, "Oh, we have the top 5 offense in the league. We got the top 5 defense, and we're at the time 1-4, and now it's 1-7, and I'm be pretty safe to say 1-8 after Sunday's game against the Giants."
Yeah, who cares if you're or if you're the top 5 offense and defense if you're 1-4?
Yeah, and that means nothing.
Wins is what gets you into the playoff.
Yeah, and that team does not have the mentality of a championship team.
Oh, absolutely not. And also, they don't have the mentality of a competitive team at this point.
Yeah,
They got
lost it
lambasted by Green Bay.
in prime time.
In
prime time.
I want to say the week before that they lost pretty embarrassingly too.
Yeah, to Jacksonville.
Yeah, 30-3.
Yeah,
Um,
unbelievable.
right now I'm gonna go out and say it. The best franchise in Dallas right now, because the Mavericks, the Stars, the Cowboys, they're all down, is the Texas Rangers, and even they aren't quite a championship team.
Well, there's your 7. Coming up on Monday, we're going to have this debate. We talked about this last night at dinner. What was the greatest Super Bowl game of all
Hey,
time?
we can get call-ins if we're on the. Are we gonna actually be on air?
No, this is going to be a rep show on Monday.
Okay.
The Monday after, we'll be back on the radio. We'll have this debate real quick, about that. We'll have reactions to the NFL games. We'll preview the Monday night game. If you want pregame for the Monday night football game,
Listen to us.
come to us.
And
The
we'll
highly
recap.
rated, the highly rated, yet soon to be canceled Sports with the Boys. For Brad, I'm Anthony. Good night, everybody.